This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 21. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And here we are for another adventure in the Freeheel Life land. And to start things off today, not a ton in the newsroom because there's not a whole lot of skiing going on. But got a couple new videos up, whether you're using our YouTube page, IGTV, Facebook. We put them up on all those zones. But if you didn't see it on Friday, you can check out one of my faves, heel removal tip, number 6, Robin Hood. I had a good time shooting that at the shop, literally, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So make sure to head over to one of those places and check it out. You'll also see the second episode of Dosty's View. We brought Craig on to review gear every week, just kind of talk about his little ins and outs of different equipment he's seeing and testing. He's still getting some turns in over in Colorado, and so you definitely want to tune in for that as well. As far as YouTube channel, we'd love for you guys to subscribe over there. That's a great way to get all your information. I started doing like a weekly kind of roundup at the beginning of the week, and then you'll start getting all sorts of new videos and content as the week progresses, and everything from gear reviews to stoke videos to interviews, and also even some kind of nitty gritty how-to videos on different bindings. So do not miss it. So today I'm super stoked about this episode. Today we're going to have on Ty Dayberry. Ty's been a staple name in the Telemark world for the better part of 2 decades. He started his freeheel skiing journey at age 10 in and around South Lake Tahoe, where he grew up. Around 2004, Ty was showcased as an up-and-coming, albeit still young, telemark skier in Josh Bones Murphy's final telemark ski film, Unparalleled 4, The Lost Season. He went on to appear in every major telemark ski production company of the time, including Toughguy Productions, Lipstick Films, Falling Forward Films, Unparalleled Productions, and the Powderwhores. Over the years, he's helped innovate new tricks and style in the telemark park realm and backcountry skiing through his segments and online edits. He's also been a freeride coach and inspired countless young telemark skiers from around the world to jump and innovate their own tricks. In recent years, Ty's released his own telemark short film called Future Freeheel, along with 2 other short films with his collaborator Bevan Waite under the name Mountain Grown Media. And his list of accomplishments goes on and on and on. And I want to welcome my old buddy, old Ty Dayberry, to the Freeheel Life Podcast. Welcome, dude.
Hey, what's up? How's it going, Josh?
Good, man. Stoked to have you on here.
Oh, yeah.
I always say, I think between you, me, and JT Robinson, we're like the last remaining dinosaurs of an era. So,
Yeah, I think there's probably like 420 years of tele skiing between all 3 of us. So.
It's been pretty. It's honestly it's pretty funny because when I was putting that intro together, I was kind of laughing because I said two decades, and then I was like, have I really known you that long? That's a long time, dude.
No, it flew too, man. It was just, yeah, happened really quick, but here we are. Future Freeheel.
I love it, dude. Well, so take us back, man. I mean, like I said, I've known you for a long time, but I wanted you to kind of take us back to the beginning. Like, how did you get into telemark skiing, and like, where did it all start for you?
Cool. Well, yeah, like you said, I grew up in South Lake Tahoe. My parents have been heavily involved in the ski industry. My grandparents also. Grandpa was on patrol here in South Lake, and he telemark skied pretty frequently, and my dad did also. So I saw them kind of growing up, and it was always on my plate, like, yo, what's up with this? I'm gonna want to try this out because the whole man's doing it, So for my 10th birthday, I got a Freeheel set up, and basically went to Sierra Tahoe the next day and learned on the bunny hill, and was pretty proficient at alpine skiing. So as a kid, I kind of just was bouncing around, flopping around. And yeah, that first day I started skiing powder with my dad on a Black Diamond Run. It was a big deal for me.
On the first day? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. I clearly remember Telly turning around like house-sized boulders, because there's a bunch of granite at Sierra, and it was a big pillowy day. And yeah, that's kind of where it all started. It was funny because, my parents, sometimes they were strapped definitely around like Christmas time, because it was my dad's birthday, my birthday, my little brother's birthday, Christmas. And yeah, it was tough for them to spend money on female boots that like barely fit me, those lace up leather boots, and get some Telly gear for me, because I already had alpine skis. So it almost didn't accumulate.
That's crazy.
But yeah, that was like the coolest birthday gift I ever got. And basically every birthday of my childhood after that, I asked for ski gear specifically every year. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started. I'd chase my friends around when I was a kid, and it didn't occur to me that there really wasn't many other Telly kids out there, because it was just so hard to find the gear,
Yeah, no, for sure. Because were you born in South Lake?
I was born in Southern California, and like grew up in Big Bear. There's a small town called Green Valley Lake, and then there's like Snow Valley, which is another resort there, and that's where my dad kind of got into it. And we lived in a mountain town down there, and then moved to Tahoe when I was about I was like 3 years old, so basically local my whole life. But yeah, we lived on the North Shore, and I skied alpine and snowboarded at Homewood, because that's where my dad worked. And then we finally moved down here to South Lake because he got a job at Kirkwood when I was young. So that's kind of where my roots are.
I didn't realize you had some North Lake in you too. It seems like that.
I do. Yeah, it's funny because later in life, like I started running into kids that I went to elementary school with, and yeah, it's just cool because it's such a small world. It's funny. I tell people it's like, South Lake and North Shore are completely different worlds, like it's kind of hard for me to get up there, because like on a powder day, it's one way is closed usually, and the other way is a nightmare to get up to, and you have tourists everywhere, and you know what it's like. It's hard to travel when there's a lot of snow.
I guess because the Emerald Way, you can't even drive over there in the winter, can you?
If it's a good snow year, you really can't. It's pretty blocked off, but it's cool. Like I get up there occasionally. Shout out to my North Shore friends, but yeah, it's once I moved down here, it was like, yeah, game on.
yeah, there's not that much. There's cool stuff up there, but you guys also have like Sierra's rad. I remember you took me there once, and like the tree skiing that's one thing I always remember about Sierra Tahoe is the trees. It's like super unique and just big, like those big pine trees, and there's tons of space between all of them. It's pretty rad. It's cool. Yeah, no,
every resort here has got its own little flavor, different styles, but tree skiing at Sierra is definitely like, it kind of molded me as a skier, growing up, young floppy Telly kid, and then kind of getting a little bit more structure and learning how to telemark more properly when I got older. It definitely still influenced the way I ski.
Yeah. Did you get, so like you started on the leather boots and some cable bindings. Do you remember like when you moved over to plastic boots? It had to be within the first couple of years, right? Because there's not a lot of time between like 2004.
I'm trying to remember, because there was like some women's lace up leather boots, and then I switched over, and I want to say like I've still like had small feet when I was a kid. Like 14, 15 years old. And I think I barely fit into those garments with the 4 buckles. And oh no, I had a pair of female boots, like 2 buckle female boots that were garments.
That's what I was trying to remember. Because remember when I met you, you were skiing those yellow lines. And
yeah.
I don't even remember. I was trying to picture the boots, but I can't remember offhand what those were. What boots?
I'm pretty sure they were like a 2 buckle women's boot, and then I started getting sponsored, and then they sent me those. What were they? The Synergies or the Energies? The red and
the red and silver.
Yeah. And I got on the 4 buckles like shortly after I got on plastic. But yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't want to change my gear at all, and I just wanted to ski really traditional style Telemark because I thought it was super cool and funky and unique.
Really? You wanted to stay on like the leather boots and stuff?
Yeah, and it just like, like I had no support in my ankles, but I liked it. Even when I was like a kid, the boots were so overpowering for me, I would just ski in walk mode.
That's what I was going to bring that up because I remember talking to you. I mean, this wasn't like maybe it was 15 years ago, but I remember you telling me that and I was like, what? And like, I remember I asked your dad I told your dad that one day when I was staying at your place and I was like, do you know Ty skis in walk mode? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I ski in walk mode too. And I was like,
my dad was gay for that.
I was like, oh, I'm like, that's where it came from. I'm like, you guys all ski in walk mode.
Yeah. No, I got called out like the first time I traveled abroad and filmed with Bones, and like was super back seat on these, like, for me at the time they were steeper lines for sure, and he like looked down, he's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? And Bones basically like convinced me to like go into full on ski mode at that age. But
no, that's funny.
Yeah.
So how did you so for those of you out there that are maybe new to Telemark, like Bones is Josh Murphy, and he was a filmmaker back in I think the first of his series of 4 films came out in 1999. It's called Unparalleled, and his company was Unparalleled Productions. So, but yeah, so when did you? And if you haven't seen those movies, try to find a copy because they're like some of the only 16 millimeter films out there that were ever made for telly stuff. But yeah, Ty, sorry, I just wanted to give some context because I started realizing like people might not even know what we're talking about.
Totally, yeah.
But yeah, how did you meet? So Bones, I think Bones was more of a squaw guy, wasn't he? Kind of up in that area.
Yeah, Alpine, Squaw, North Shore. He lived in Truckee. But the way I linked up with Bones was they had like kind of a telly get together film session at Squaw, like up there by Siberia, where like the park is. I don't know if anybody knows out there, but anywho, yeah, they always had like these classic jump lines. And my dad's old buddy, Jamie Ziegler, was actually a telemark instructor at Squaw. And shout out to Jamie. He was like, he's this hilarious old like engineer, deadhead surfer guy from Santa Cruz. And he'd be like, dude, keep your hands in front, like hilarious Cali dude. But he called my dad. He was like, you got to get Ty up here. And I was about like 14 or 15 years old. And yeah, I was on those yellow lines. I got the shop to sponsor me. I thought I was sponsored by Line for sure at that age. I told everybody it was. But yeah, so like I rolled up there, and yeah, I was on plastic boots then, and I met Bones. I was super shy. I think Max Mancini was there, and like I'm sure Ben Dolence was there. I can't remember. There was a good sized crew. Evan Mon. There was a handful of dudes there that were well older than me. And they were hitting like this 70-foot table at Siberia at Squaw. And I started doing a couple backflips and warming up, and they freaked out because they didn't see any kids at all hitting jumps that size, let alone like going inverted. That year I was like on the Heavenly Foundation, and my coaches built this powder jumps, and we'd practice backflips. So I was all stoked on that. And yeah, I was skiing a lot of park back then, and that's kind of just how I got in with Bones. And
was that
it was pretty rad.
Was that the time that there was just the single jump that they had that boom cam?
I think that was a time,
or was that before?
That was a time after. So like,
gotcha.
The time I met Bones was before. He brought out the boom cam to squaw a couple times for sure. I know I missed one the following year because I went to USASA Nationals, and I missed filming there. But I got to go to Italy the following year to shoot with Bones, and that was cool. And yeah, it was sick. Filming was a huge deal, obviously, because you mentioned it. It was on 16 millimeter film, so a 3-minute can of film cost like $100 per minute. So it was like $300 just out of pocket for one can of film, and it could be overexposed if you don't load it right. It'll get all messed up. But yeah, no, I imagine Bones being behind the lens, watching all these freeheels flopping around and just getting pissed because we were just crashing left and right. But we got a bunch of cool shots at the end of the 2 seasons filming for the 4th film. So it was sick, man.
Were you in the 3rd one too, or only the 4th?
No, I was only in the 4th one. So he used shots from the previous spring when I was like 50, I want to say I was 15, and that's when I met him. Just throwing down those backflips at squaw. And then the next year, that's when we filmed the bulk of the lost season. Yeah.
That's right, because it was lost season because of the skipped year. I forgot about that. Because honestly, I don't know if you remember it. That's where I met you. Was at Squaw. I'll never forget this. I don't know if I can't remember if I ever told you this, but I remember I was smoking I used to smoke cigarettes back then, and I was smoking a cigarette, and you were like this little kid, and you looked at me and you were like, you were like giving me a hard time about smoking cigarettes, and I was like, who is this little kid like telling me what to do? I was like, dude, what? You're like, dude, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes. It's bad for you. And I'm like, what? That was pretty funny. Nice. I'm glad I finally quit smoking cigarettes. So I guess you were right in the beginning, but I'll never forget that. It was pretty funny.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah. Cause I mean, like, you gotta imagine I was like just a little kid, and all these like A-lister telly skiers were out there hugging. I was like, oh my God, like just trying to fit in. It was great.
And that was definitely an inspiring time, because I remember I was there with Cody Smith, and I remember thinking, I'm way out of my league. I didn't even start jumping a lot till after that, and I think, kind of like you were saying, I think people didn't realize like what was going down. And because you remember that, like, Seth Steffen was there, who's somebody probably not a lot of people remember, and I think Seth was there, but yeah, Max Mancini, Ben Dolans, Cody Smith, there's a bunch of cats. But so I mean, so last season, like, is that when you guys went over to Livigno over in Italy?
We did, yeah. So I was 16 at that age, and I don't know how Joe Rogan-esque this podcast gets, but yeah, I could go into a lot of funny details about that trip. It was fun, man. I was like, I threw the average age off a lot, because everybody else was like mid-20s to like 30s, you know. And I was like 16, and in Italy they don't have a drinking age, and these guys were just, we were partying so hard. It was great. But yeah, there's a lot of lessons learned there. It was fun, man. I really want to go back to Livigno. It's been in the back of my mind ever since I left that place.
Oh yeah. And
it was cool.
Yeah, for the listeners out there, Livigno is this little town in this valley at the very northern part of Italy, on the Swiss border, and they hosted La Schietta, and yeah, I mean, I think back in the day, if I remember right, there was like 1,000 telly skiers that would show up at this thing. I mean, it was pretty epic. So
no joke.
Yeah, no, that's Yeah, so I haven't watched that segment for a long time because you guys skied some like there was some park stuff obviously, but then I remember there was some like a big backcountry tour that was going down in that too. So I know there was some pretty sweet terrain you guys ended up
Yeah.
skiing. I don't know if you were part of that segment or not.
I vaguely remember it. But no, oh yeah, so that was like towards the end of the trip. We did a lot of stuff at the resort, and yeah, we partied a lot, like I said, and so it was like kind of tough to get motivated. But yeah, we got out there, and yeah, I think Max and I were both sick. We caught the flu, so we weren't in the Big Mountain segment, but it was like Lorenzo and Ben and Shieldsy, and they hiked out pretty far. I sat with Bones because it was pretty exposed stuff, and at that time I was not that skilled at big mountain skiing at all. I was more park oriented. But yeah, I watched Lorenzo and Ben and Shields just put it down and film like the bulk of the segment in one afternoon, touring side country and getting out to some bigger stuff. So it was eye opening to say the least. Definitely made me like kind of get more serious on following trips to foreign countries. It was sick. It was definitely a good foot in the door for me.
Yeah.
And, yeah, when I look back at the footage, I was bummed because I didn't get shots in that Livigno trip, just B-roll stuff. And then it was like, yeah, little high schooler kid partying too hard, and you honestly realize like what you need to do better next time. So yeah, that's it. It was lessons learned. But yeah, the bulk of my shots were here in Tahoe in that movie, and that's where I felt most comfortable skiing too at that time.
That's funny. So you think just because the partying was going down, some of the skiing didn't end up being as solid?
The park skiing was sick, but we had a bunch of park shots already, and 16-year-old who watches Tanner Hall and Kat Fuhas at that time, and wanting just all park shots. The same 360 isn't going to make it every single time for the final cut. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened there. But no, I had shots. I'd love to see if they're archived and just like get all like the ones that didn't make the final movie and be able to have all the different shots over the years. But it's hard, man. It's so hard to keep up on that stuff. Like I said, time goes by, and the archives only have so much in them.
Oh yeah, I know. I think about that a lot. There's probably so much cool like weird B-roll out there that we don't even remember, that's sitting on tapes and stuff or film.
I know there's like 20 of them underneath my parents' house.
Oh, that's so crazy.
One day.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. You think like, man, what a different time. Like, I remember when I first started shooting photos, so that was like 2002, and Powder, I think we submitted to a bunch of magazines like Powder and Skiing, some shots. I remember my buddy Will Wisman was shooting photos, and they wouldn't accept digital photography at that point, and you had to send the slides in. I don't know if did you ever deal with that? Like you might have been a little too young. I don't remember. 02, 03.
I kind of did. I went out to so like I rode for Car Skis, Telemark. They were the Telemark version of line skis, kind of. Just think about it like that if you don't know. But yeah, I went out there a handful of times and like met with the team managers, and they had this like the slides that they used for magazine prints and like Telemark Skier Mag back then. So I vaguely remember those days.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy to think about. Yeah, and then that's kind of when you and I kind of met up at that point with Carhu and and then and that segment in Lost Season was kind of, I remember you were making a pair of agents, and which was the Carhu Park ski back then. You were doing the layup, I think. And, yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, Lost Season, Unparalleled Productions. You might have to find a DVD. Honestly, I don't think he ever put them out digitally. So
yeah. Last I heard, Bones is still around. You should check out some of the stuff he does for Patagonia these days. It's just award winning.
Oh yeah, he just put out that movie Artificial with Patagonia. Yeah, I haven't checked that out yet, but I saw he did that.
But anywho, yeah, so he the word on the street is he has Unparalleled DVDs that people buy somewhat frequently for how old they are. So
I'm sure
he's still getting orders online, which is pretty cool here.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it'd be interesting to catch up with him and see his perspective on things and stuff. Because, yeah, I mean, that was 16 years ago. So that was a long time ago. Crazy. Wow. Well, that's cool, man. So yeah, and so kind of going out of that, like you said, early part of telling. I mean, you were watching Tanner Hall, a lot of these guys, and I mean, is that kind of what drew you to just skiing in the park on Telemark skis, or was there what was the whole catalyst on that? You know, when you first started.
Well, I guess the catalyst it goes back to Sierra because that's where I rode, and they definitely had a really progressive park setup. If you haven't been there, there's this run called the Alley. It used to be known as Snowboarder Alley, and it was specific, snowboard only terrain park. But then they started letting skiers in when I was in middle school, so around 2000s, I think. 2001, and earlier than that, probably 98, 99. But anyways, yeah, so they always had a really sick park setup, and obviously I would chase my friends around who were either on snowboards or skis, and some of my first skier friends were my buddy Derek Witters and then my other friend Tyler Tomaselli. They had twin tip skis before any of us did. And so that's obviously my friends got them. I got to have them. So they're doing these tricks. I got to try these tricks. That's where it sparked. And then, I started watching ski movies probably in 8th grade. And they were the Poor Boys movies. And there was actually, I remember this one Poor Boys movie. It was a 15-second clip of this guy Baptiste.
Yeah, it was Jean-Baptiste at the very end hitting that hip. That big quarter, right?
Yeah, he was in the pipe or a cord pipe, and he was landing switch on those early K2 twin tips that were barely even twin tips, on telly gear, and I saw that dude in the Poor Boys movie. And I was like, oh, shit, yeah, you could be a pro telly skier. So I'm just going to keep doing this. It only made sense.
That's a really good history tidbit. That's fun that I didn't know that you knew about that. Because I always remember people would be like, oh, there's never been a telly skier in an Alpine movie. And I was like, actually there was. And this was years ago, but I remember seeing that clip too and thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, that was so crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder where that guy is.
I don't know. Yeah, if you hear this, Baptiste, what up, dude? But yeah, so I saw him in the Poor Boys segment. It was literally only 15, 20 seconds long, but that's kind of what got me stuck. And then I'd make my parents buy me DVDs along with my school clothes at the beginning of the year. And I'd watch Tanner and Pat religiously every single day before school, and kind of just try to mirror what those guys were doing. Eric Pollard too. Pollard was my favorite backcountry skier to watch. Still kind of is, but yeah, man. And then it was just before I knew it, I was filming on 16mm film and shooting with you and chasing guys around Max Mancini and Ben. They had this RV, and I'd always go out with them.
Oh man,
features.
I forgot about that RV.
Oh, dude, it just because they were always up in Squaw too, and that's when I would go up there quite a bit because they'd be filming, and yeah, it was fun, man. It was just I'm competitive at heart, but really focused too, I guess. But it just when you're building little backcountry booters or street style rails or whatever, it's just you just get really focused and you see what the best dudes are doing, and you try to one up them, honestly. It's just a good, healthy progression. And that's what was going on. It was really creative. And if you watch like their movies, it's just, you could see the evolution.
Oh, for sure.
Spiking. And Seth too, man. Like Seth Steffen was just so sick in the park, and he was the man, dude. Like he kind of took me under his wing when I was like 16 to 18 years old, and I'd go ride North Star on the North Shore with him, and he'd come down to Sierra, and it was sick. Between that and like my alpine skier friends and my coaches at the Heavenly Foundation and riding at Sierra, it was just like that's where it all started for me.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I thought about some of those names. Like, we were texting before we got on here, and I was like thinking about people like that. I just kind of spaced, like I haven't heard Seth Steffen's name for a long time, and I was thinking about like there's all these.
Decker.
Yeah, that was the other guy. That's so funny you said that because Decker Jory. It was a McLean.
Decker made the graphic for the Carhu skis.
Yeah, for the second agent in the first Carhu Team 100 and 130s. But,
he made a lot of graphics. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the sickest time of my life almost, just being like a young kid hanging out with fucking 20 to 30-year-old dudes and partying and skiing and just like taking it all in. It was a lot of good life lessons, like that's kind of what molded me into what I am today, is being creative mainly. I was going out and really wanting to try new stuff. And if you think about it, like some of the tricks that we were doing and some of the tricks that I'm still doing, like nobody else is landing or doing ever or thought to do it on tele skis ever out of like 7 billion people. So that was like that, dude. That was the craziest thing.
I was gonna say that too. Is that era? What was really fun is like people hadn't ever tried anything like that on tele skis. Like there had been different eras, but it's kind of weird to look back because you think like, oh man, doing handrails and stuff. But the whole vibe of doing tricks and jumping and handrails, like in the early 2000s, I mean, it was really it was just new, right? Like it seems almost weird looking back. You're like, what were we doing? Yeah. Like sometimes I think that, but I'm like, man, we spent a lot of time driving around a town looking for a rail to hit, but but a lot of
honestly, like that was, sorry to cut you off, but like, dude, when I'd go out to Utah, like and hang out with you and Cody and Austin and like just chase rails around, it was the mecca. It still is the mecca for handrails. Like I know people who like drive out with their snowboards and film full segments in the streets in Utah. So it was like, that's where it kind of progressed to for me, like coming out of Tahoe and like hanging out with Max and Ben and trying to do that kind of stuff. And then I linked up with you guys and you're like, oh, check out this Quad King here, dude. I'm like, oh my God, my mind's blown.
Oh yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah. Do you remember that one Quad King at the University of Utah we did with like, it was like a car push?
Oh, it was like on a Sunday and there's people walking home from church and they were just like, yep, that's what happens here.
Yeah, because we were too poor. We didn't know how to make a drop in. And I remember we just like built that lane and then I pushed you with my Subaru. You sat on the front of the Subaru and then I just pushed you and braked as fast as I could.
Oh, it was great. I mean,
so
it took it. I was pretty on my rail game then. And that took like probably 10, 15 tries before I got it. We're like, all right, we're getting the fuck out of here.
That's funny.
Stuff like that, man. That's, like I said, being creative and just trying to get it. It was super fun.
I was going to say, like, so because of that era and you were really, I mean, you really were part of that first group that was like heavily jumping and really pushing it. Like, what tricks, I was trying to think about this because I don't think anybody's ever documented this, honestly, is like what tricks maybe you could lay claim to, like being the first to do and or even make up, you know what I mean? Because like when like dude, like doing like those double tele presses sideways and stuff, like I'm pretty sure you were the first guy to do those,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
tough because like yeah, I'd say that's just like a little after those days of like filming with lipstick. It really like it's either me or Dylan Gardner, honestly, like the
Oh yeah, Dylan.
sideways one, because
You're
I don't
right.
know, because like he was over in Colorado and I'm doing my thing over here, so it's like you just don't know who the first one was doing it, but I'll give it up to Dylan 100%. Like
Yeah.
the telly specific rail tricks, like
Yeah.
he's pretty much the godfather of that. Whereas like I was winning USTA Big Air with like Switch 9. And like,
I was gonna say that, dude, at Copper.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was, you did a Switch 9. I'm pretty sure that you were the first or one of the first to do that for sure. Because
I think that trick for sure.
the only other guy that I remember that could do Switch 9 back then was Jonas Karhuma from I think he's Finnish, but he was living in Sweden or Norway. Anyways.
Yeah, but yeah, I did it in competition. So that like in a competition, it was the first, and then like I remember because my dad would drive me out to Colorado like for competitions all the time, or like I'd fly out with my mom for like when I'd be competing against alpine skiers. But no, yeah, there's a handful of tricks. I mean, like nowadays, like a couple dubs, definitely have done first, like switch dub 10, and then like dub flat in backcountry, more specifically like dub flat. I don't know. I don't know, tens like actually stomped in the backcountry. Like that's the kind of stuff I'm doing these days. But back then, like there was a lot of like rail tricks that no telly skiers had done, or like zero spins, switch 5s, switch 7s, all corked out. Like definitely like a lot of those kind of tricks I got first on. But yeah, like in those days being in high school and like 18, 20-year-old punk kid, like that was my ego. That's all I want to do is like lay claim to first tricks and stuff like
For
that.
sure.
But
Yeah.
these days it's more like trying to get it super fluid and getting the aesthetics more pleasing, versus like trying to go out and be the first person to do something, which is cool. I love it because it's like that's what fueled the progression, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's what's fun to look back on, is just like you literally, yeah, you were a younger kid, but you were part of this like incredibly important group, in my opinion, of like, there's a small group of people that were doing freestyle, free ride, park, that kind of genre of telly skiing, and really pushing it, man. And yeah, and man, talk about all the good little shout outs, man. Like those are some, yeah, Dylan Garner and a lot of these guys, Decker, McLean Jory, like there's some guys that like really were doing some cool stuff. And I was thinking about that, like some of it's on video, and then like other parts of it, it's just you had to be there. Like people weren't shooting video, man. And so it's like, that was part of what I was excited to talk to you about, is just like get some of this on a recording so we don't forget,
No, totally. No, I agree, man. It's just, yeah, I forget too, and until it gets brought up. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. But it's cool, man. Like I love to see where like a lot of those old school telly names are at these days, and I keep in contact with a lot of them. You and I definitely keep in contact quite a bit. But no, yeah, it's cool, man. It's funny because like I just enjoy it so much, and yeah, there's been times where I felt burnt out about like trying to chase sponsorships or like getting shots, and it kind of gets out of sight. But at the end of the day, telly skiing, like I will never quit telly skiing. Like I'm always going to try to like showcase it in a fun and positive way. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now, outside of every other thing that I do. But yeah, I'm still here.
No, I love that, man. And I mean, yeah, so like I feel like part of that was like memory lane for us, for sure, like talking about all that. But like I feel like maybe coming up to more modern era, like when you made Future Freeheel, which was kind of a short movie. Like what year was that? I was trying to dig that up before I got on with you, but I couldn't.
Shoot.
Do you remember when that? It's like 4 years.
It's like 4 seasons ago now. Yeah.
I was gonna say like 2016. So like what was, because there was kind of that time between when there was like all these film companies making Telemark movies, and then there was like nothing for a while,
Right.
And like once Powderwhore kind of stopped using Telemark skiers in the movies exclusively, I felt like there was kind of a gap. And then you put out Future Freeheel, and like what was the whole idea when you came up with that?
Well, yeah, just I mean, like we kind of covered a bunch of my history and like the early freestyle movement right off the bat in this podcast. But like, I mean, if you leave off where, yeah, like where Lipstick and then Powderwhores, like those days kind of came to an end. I did a lot of competitions, and yeah, like whether they were against tele skiers or alpine skiers, it didn't matter to me. Like kind of in those days, I was a really consistent park skier. I still probably could be. It's a little rough on the body, but yeah, no, like I just did a lot of park, and then I started getting into the big mountain scene, and I guess that in between time of what Future Freeheel and like filming with you guys, I try to get in the big mountain scene. Frenchie with Toughguy Productions, he was making it happen. He was kind of keeping like that big mountain scene alive, and he called me up. Well, I've done a couple of his comps like at Alpine in the past, and it was a lot of line score back then, and I didn't, like I said, like it's taken me years to get better at backcountry skiing, like big mountain lines. But yeah, no, like I did a couple back then. I was just dabbling in it. I guess that would be like 2008, 2009, and then 2010. Frenchie had the Big Mountain series, and there was 4 stops. I think it was Toughguy, and then Alpine, and then Crested Butte. And yeah, it was just 3 that year. There's 3 stops, and Frenchie was like, "Come on over and do the big mountain comp with me, bro." For sure. I'll cruise around.
That was a pretty good
with Frenchie, and yeah, no, like he's he hit me up out of nowhere, and I was like, "Sure, dude." And I put down some pretty good lines and got 4th overall. And he took the top 3 to Alaska with him.
Oh yeah,
and
that's right.
And the second place, Will Cardamone got 2nd, and he didn't come. So I went with like Jake and Lucy Sackbauer and Mackenzie and Melee and Nina. I think it was just me and Jake for the men's. But yeah, we
Jake
went with
Saxon.
Jake got 1st that year, and so I went to Alaska with them and I got some shots with Frenchie through the course of that season, competing, and then with my buddy Martin Rubio, who had Painted Visuals and Tall Trees Productions back in the day. And yeah, I started putting out online edits like after my season, kind of like season edits, but going a little deeper than just the typical like hip hop song and all your ski porn shots and then thank you sponsors at the end. I worked with my buddy Luis Rubio, who's Martin's brother, and we would just like geek out, get super creative, and yeah, that's where it kind of started. And for the following years, like I still competed and tried to do that thing. And yeah, it just became my priority to get as many good shots as I can. I was doing a lot of photography with my buddies too, just wishing that I'd get stuff printed in mags, and it just looks good for sponsors when you do, but it really wasn't panning out how I'd hoped. And yeah, so it was just that Josh Madsen attitude, the punk rock, do it yourself. And yeah, no, it's badass. Like, it's definitely inspiring because, I drew from that and like was like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. And yeah, next thing I knew, like I had a ton of footage because I got a snowmobile like when I was shooting for Future Freeheel, and I was still doing big mountain comps and was just really serious about it. And it was my priority, which it still sort of is, but yeah, that's pretty much how it manifested. Because yeah, man, like I could go on.
Yeah, you're just like stacked.
About it. But
yeah, I know. Yeah, and I didn't mean to like jump too far ahead because there's like that's what I mean. We could go on hours on like one topic, but yeah, I felt like that was kind of like that shift. Like I remember I didn't talk to you for a couple years or didn't talk as much, and then all of a sudden you were like, oh yeah, I've got like all this footage and then the competition. I think that was always the funny thing too. You'd go to those big mountain comps, dude, and by the end you were just crushing people and it was awesome. But like, yeah, you remember at the beginning, like you said, it was like, it's like you kind of like, I don't know if it wasn't, not like you weren't good. It was like, you kind of had to learn how to play that game when the line score, the judging was a specific way. And, yeah.
No, yeah.
I think eventually you just got good at the game, you know?
Thanks, dude. No, yeah, that like I said, I've just always been like super competitive and focused. And yeah, Big Mountain's like the one that I still haven't gotten a first place in. I got second in the Freeheel Cup. That was probably around when I was filming Future Freeheel.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was skiing really well then. But yeah, no, I've gotten first in the Big Air, Big Air, Telly Slope, Telly Pipe, and Telly Rail Jam, let alone like all the other like local comps with alpine skiers and stuff. But
I forgot.
I still need a first place under my belt in Big Mountain, dude.
You're still like, young, dude. You got it. Come on.
I know it's crazy because, well, like going off on a different path real quick, like my wife, dude, like when we first started dating, she came off of a mogul background and she was already really good at competing, but then she started skiing with me all the time and she got into the big mountain competitions and I got to step back and watch her do it. And dude, she's like ranked internationally and like getting podiums left and right. And it was just like that when I kind of saw that, like from like more of like a spectator kind of coaching perspective, like that's when like I started to be like, okay, I need to change my skiing for competing too.
That's kind of cool though. I didn't realize that she was a competitive skier. That's cool.
Yeah, she's still like laying it down. It's crazy because the judges really like to see a specific well sculpted run. You know what I'm saying? It just can't be like going out and like winging it off something, and especially these days everybody's so like there's a format now for sure for a formula for like a winning run. But no, yeah, when I back in the day, like it was like ski down, there's the biggest hug, send a backflip and get stuck, and then I'd be in like 10th place or something because I didn't ski the most techie line to get to the backflip, you know. But yeah, it was all learning experiences, and then started to figure out how to hone it in a little bit. And you just got to ski a lot, man. Like those big mountain comps, like it's tough because like the years like where like I ski a ton of powder here in Tahoe, I would go out to a big mountain comp and it would be like a variable chopped up venue. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I haven't skied this kind of snow in a long time. But yeah, man, everybody has to deal with it when you're competing. It's just the name of the game. But I don't know, there's always like a little bit of pressure on me too, just because, you know,
you've been around forever, dude.
I guess.
Yeah,
I was just hungry for it and just like, yeah, I don't know.
No,
it's different nowadays. It's like like I said, it's more of an art form and trying to go out and get really cool lines in the backcountry. But yeah, the big mountain competing really kind of that's where it stemmed from now, and that's where I'm at. So
I love that. I actually the last podcast I just did by myself, and that kind of reminds me of it because I was talking about the different phases of a life cycle in a telemark skier's life, and kind of how you get to a mindless zone. Like after you get through learning and all that, you get to be mindless, and you know, then you're just doing it, and then from there you get to a point where you just want to master stuff. There's kind of like a mastery cycle after it. It kind of reminds me of like what you're saying with that, like where you're like going back and picking out small chunks and then like refining them, you know, and whether it's you're not worried about like the big picture like you once were. You're like worried about this like very specific detail of like your flow or breathing or mindset, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and you could apply that to anything in life too. But I fully agree, man. Like, yeah, I love the journey that I had to get to where I am now, and wouldn't trade it for anything. But yeah, man, like it really was like, you know, my goals were like, oh, I want to get a segment in Matchstick or Poor Boys back in the day, and it's like, well, that's not really that realistic right now. How do you make something more obtainable? And it's like going out and creating your own destiny, you know, and that's what the tele movies are now for me.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's crazy because it's just like, to tell you the truth, like when Future Freeheel came out online, man, like it was like, okay, Instagram, Facebook, that's the hot spots. But yeah, I uploaded it to that, and I think Telemark Skier uploaded it also, and it got a great showing and a lot of views. But like a month later, I was like, oh, I should probably upload this to my old YouTube account. And then that's where like
it's blown up.
Man, it blew up so big. Yeah, like I mean, like I just looked the other day and it's got like 115,000 views or something. So it's crazy, man. Like I would have never thought like that kind of audience could be reached with just something that, you know, I kind of made come to fruition.
Yeah, no, I love that. Is that well? And then the last couple years, you did a Telemark Tale and Our Family, and kind of put that together with Bevan Waite.
Yeah,
and those have been. I mean, I felt like the response on those two were really good. I know we did a showing with the Telemark Tale movie here in Utah last year, and people were digging it, man. I mean, like if you felt like those kind of had the same response, I don't know, like what is it like because I mean honestly, last time I even tried to make any sort of something like that was like 2013. I'm curious how what does it feel like making something now versus like, I mean, we just talked about 2004 and shooting film. You know, like what, like I don't know, like what do you think about all that stuff right now? Like movies and the importance of them, or do people want shorter stuff or longer stuff? I'm just kind of curious what your whole take is on it.
Well, yeah, not to go off on it too much, but I mean, when I started a YouTube account, I think YouTube was out for like a year, right? So I made one Freeheel, which is like my YouTube account, and I put up like these newschooler.com style edits, and they'd get like 8,000, 10,000 views like back in the day. And then like the YouTube kind of fell off once Facebook and Instagram started becoming a thing. And so for me personally, like I started focusing on that quite a bit more. And so at the end of the day, YouTube's kind of like held a flame, you know, like they're still there. And I think YouTube particularly is like the coolest app or online access out there, hands down, because what it is like, I remember when they first started, you couldn't upload a video that wasn't more than like 5 minutes or 10 minutes long. And it's probably because of the servers, but now it's like you can watch full-length documentaries or like just anything on there. And so what that does for Telemark Skiing is makes it super accessible just for anybody who like is remotely curious. Like Instagram, you will not see any Telemark videos, period, if you don't even know what it is. Like it's all so particularly based on you and the algorithms for an individual. Like that's why I love YouTube, is because it just like it like what's next. Like if you have like that button click where it just like automatically plays something next, like say you're watching Sean Pettit or like some big name alpine skier on YouTube, my movie might just pop on next, and then somebody who's never seen that, like they get curious, and then all of a sudden here's like a 15-minute short film in your face that like shows exactly what telemark skiing is these days. And I think that's just the coolest thing. So that, and then the live premieres have been really cool too. Bevan, I remember when we first started kind of getting this thing going, Bevan hit you up and you're like, dude, you got to do premieres. You got to do premieres because it's so engaging. I fully agree with it. And you've done this with lipstick films in the past. So like you already had that formula, and that inspired us to like, go outside of the Tahoe region where we are, because we'd always do, like, I'd link up with my buddy Josh Dyack, who shoots for Solomon and puts out like the craziest alpine skiing you've ever seen every year. And no, it's sick, like, to do the local premieres with him and get all the friends out and do your snow dance in the fall and get stoked for winter. But when Bevan decided to put it out to like the nation and internationally, like, we got this huge response from the tele community. It was crazy because we had no plans of doing that at all. And then all of a sudden, like, we're getting emails in our inbox saying like, hey, we want to host this premiere. We have like 100 tele skiers at this festival every year. Can we show your movie?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely you can. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's super cool, man. I mean, and like, honestly, like, there was that void there, so that's why I wanted to step up and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. These are the rad tele skiers that I, brush shoulders with. And yeah, this is where tele skiing is at. Like, it's cool because people want to know. And when Powder Magazine, whatever their stance is on it, or like people who naysay on it, like, it's not valid, because if you look at the numbers that tele skiing has online right now, it's like, man, there's a lot of tele skiers out there who are stoked about what we're doing. So
yeah, I love that. Did you talking about video, have you had a chance to check out King of the Heel competition from Telemark, Colorado yet?
I have. Yeah.
What'd you think?
I'm blown away, honestly, because like for me, sitting down just watching it, like, I can totally relate to like all the people who submitted videos, like being on that end, being like, okay, shoot, like trying to get a filmer, trying to edit it and like get it all together. Like I definitely was getting flashbacks to like putting together edits and stuff. But no, like I thought it was great, man. Like I loved it because shout out to Tele Colorado dudes. It's progressive, honestly, for tele skiing. Like, I saw a lot of tricks that were like, whoa, shoot, like, I didn't think guys were really doing that besides a handful of my friends,
Yeah.
Like, all the, like, people kind of came out of the woodworks for it. Like, there was a couple of people who I definitely knew, like the Abby Nader family, obviously know them, and
yep.
a couple other dudes. Like, yeah, it was sick though. I think it was really inspiring because it shows that, like I said, you can go out and do it yourself and get 6 shots. But that's funny too, because like it did remind me, like, I've been working with those guys on that for like I think they talked to me about it like a year ago or maybe even longer, because behind the scenes we were supposed to like co do it with them, but I was like kind of worried about the liability. So well, like, what, and I love you guys, Telemark Colorado. Some of it I was worried, and actually I don't think anything happened that was bad, but it was kind of one of those things where, like, when I remember talking to him and CJ specifically, and man, I was like, the spirit of that whole thing felt a lot like when we were trying to do lipstick back in the day. Like, we were just it, like, just that, like, DIY, like, we're gonna do this. And man, I was blown away, at like all the, yeah, like you mentioned a couple, shout out to the ham dog crew. That one was sweet. And then Midwest Telly Dads, of course. And then I don't know if you saw the whole thing. I think it's Monty. He's from like Liberty out in Pennsylvania. He's like 14. He's shredding too. And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. No, it was
that's what got me stoked the most, was like the young kid submission, man. That was pretty wild.
Yeah, so. And it's crazy because you think like that's the stuff that gets me fired up too, because I'm like, oh, This is exactly why this is important. Is you see like an entire phase, you know, of new faces out there, out there doing it, and you know, and I think that's why it's so important for us to be able to have things to support people to do that. You know, whether you're at your home mountain or, you know, get-togethers or competitions or whatever. You know, like this was a cool way for us to see like all those new faces, like you were saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, like every year I get homies coming out to our premieres, like just here in Tahoe. I'm like, what? You're a tele skier? You came here specifically for the tele movie? What? Like, it's a cool movement, man. I think like the authenticity is what speaks to a lot of newcomers nowadays, because it's just when you see it in that context, like on film, you could just tell people are having a blast and just partying with their friends the whole time. And it's like, it's everything that you want it to be. Like, yeah, sometimes you could get serious and like try new things, new tricks, and do the competition thing. But yeah, the Tele Colorado King of the Hill comp is definitely very tele-centric. I would say it's like really displays what our community is about.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
I loved it, man. I thought it was great.
Maybe you and I need to make a team next year, dude. Like the old guy crew.
I know, right?
Go dig up some of the other fossils, and we'll make an edit with all the older guys. That'd be funny.
That'd be hilarious. Oh yeah, dude.
Well, that's cool, man. Well, anything you got anything coming up this year you want to tell people about, or I guess for next, it's talk about a weird time, right? That was kind of like a abrupt ending to the whole thing.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Honestly, like this season was super rough. Tahoe was in a huge drought this year. Like I got some good turns in December, and then my wife and I went to Japan, kind of like on a honeymoon almost, and we were there for a month, and we scored some really good turns and got some cool footage from there. But yeah, when I got back, I hadn't been able to get in the backcountry too much, and then COVID-19 showed up and just shut the whole place down. So
congrats on getting married too, man.
Oh, thanks.
That's
dude.
awesome.
Yeah, no, we're stoked. That was a whole nother thing last summer. Just we had a wedding at my house, and it was just like, holy cow. It all happened very quickly, and
I bet
it was a lot of work. But we celebrated by going to Japan and skiing there. And
how long were you over? Dude, I swear, like I'd get on Instagram and I swear you were there for like 2 months.
We were there for like a month. For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a long trip, man. But it was they had a rough season too, but it's Japan. They're always going to have powder. So yeah,
I saw you ski with there was what's that dude, the guy that had those K2s.
Masafumi. Yeah,
Masafumi. Yeah, I always like following his stuff on Instagram too. So that was cool to see you guys hooked up.
Yeah, he's like the Freeheel liaison in Hokkaido. He's hilarious, man. I love that dude. But yeah, no, Masa showed us around in Japan. I mean, like, again, we could go off forever, but we got I've been there before. That was Savannah's first time, but we got like a really authentic experience just because Masa was born in Hokkaido. He has really good English too, so it was easy to like kind of communicate with Masafumi, and then, you know, get out to cool backcountry zones and meet other tele skiers there. We had premieres. He set up 2 premieres there, and yeah, it was fun. I got to be there in person and have translators talking about tele skiing. Oh, it was sick, dude. Yeah. We'll have to talk about it more, but no, it was cool. So the premieres were well received. Linked up with a lot of tele skiers over there and got good connections for next time. But yeah, I guess basically this next year, like I shot a lot of photos this year. I've been laying low on Instagram quite a bit, honestly, just because trying to practice social distancing, and it's just
better things to do with our lives.
Instagram kind of gets burnt out at times for sure. But I just don't want to like put out that vibe like, hey, go out and huck yourself while everybody's getting sick with COVID and needs hospital beds, you know. So there's a fine line to walk there, but no, I guess next year I'm pretty much. I haven't decided yet. You guys are the first to hear, but I don't know if we're gonna put out a full length or a short film again. But I'll either put out a season segment, like just like an athlete segment, kind of like I used to do, or we might just save that footage and do a 2-year project. So
that's cool. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, Tahoe got shafted with snow this year. It was really bad until like March. And I got after it. I got some good days for sure. I feel bad for all my friends who like had just a horrible season here, and then like the resort shut down and they don't have much access to backcountry or like have a snowmobile like I do. So I feel for everybody. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, and who knows where we're going to be out in the fall. So hopefully we get a good winter next year.
I know. Yeah. I'm banking on it, but yeah, just like little update. All my sponsors are still super stoked on me. All the telly heads are still out there doing it. Telemark's not dead because of COVID-19. So
I love it.
Yeah, we're killing it, dude. We're going to keep doing the same thing. You know, I'm 32 years old now, and like I said, I'm just going to keep telly skiing as long as I can.
You're a young man, 32.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I love it, dude. Well, I just I'll speak for the rest of the Telemark community. Thanks for all the stuff that you put into this, man, and stuck it out, and all the contributions. And I'm psyched I'm just psyched we got to talk about it, because there's a lot of, I feel like just having you on here has been a good opportunity to bring up a lot of other people that maybe have not I don't want to say forgotten, but you don't hear their names a lot, and I think there's a lot of really important people that have helped in their own ways kind of push things forward. So it's good to talk about it. But
hell yeah, dude. No, yeah, and like every time you and I talk, Josh, it's like we're formulating new ideas, and like, oh, what about this? What about that? And I'm always bouncing ideas off of you, and so it's good to kind of like go the other direction and talk about where we came from. So thanks a lot.
For sure, man. I love it. Yeah, it's important to me. Just in closing, for all you people out there, thanks for checking this thing out. If you want to support the podcast, you can always make a donation at paypal.me/freeheellife. You can shop at freeheellife.com, articles and videos, telemarkskier.com, and you can email me and say what up at podcast@freeheellife.com. So thanks for listening, Ty. Thanks again, brother.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, much love. And until next week, everyone, spread Telemark always. Peace.